and your marriage was very interesting. Please tell us about it.
Well, we were living in the ashram in Regent's Park Road, and I was actually, it's a long story, I was going to, Gregor had finished the Advent, he was going down to see Sri Mashti every day, and she was making corrections, and it needed to be typed. So I was doing temporary typing, so I stopped my work for a week, we thought, and he hired a typewriter, and I was going to type it, and it took months.
Well, there was no word processor, she had to retype every page, every time.
Every single day it would be a rewrite, and Gregor would go down to see Sri Mashti, argue every point, and at the end of the day, this is his own explanation, he'd end up on Mother's feet saying, "No, you're right, Mother," and then we'd have to retype it. And I did some very strange typos. He came to me once and said that he didn't think that Pluto was that philosophical. Instead of Plato. But anyway, and I had applied to go and do teacher training college because I thought, I should do something. I was just doing typing at the time. And I was also looking at various other things, and let's say handling typing the Advent was a bit of a juggling job because Gregor was finding it very tough, all this, and Rustam was there, and he was watching this going on, this play between us, and he said, "I think actually you could do psychology." Really? Me? I didn't think I was that sort of intelligent, if you like. But I applied to do a psychology course on the basis of that. Well, I didn't get offered an interview for the teacher training. I got offered an interview for the psychology degree, a science degree, and I went to art college. It was completely out of my whatever. So I went for the interview, and it was a whole day of tests and interviews, and I was really thought, my head was just on fire come the end of it. And we used to go and see Sri Mashti a lot, and went back to her flat at Ashley Gardens, and I walked in the room, she said, "Maureen, what on earth's the matter?" I thought, that's the end of my psychology. So I said, I've just been for an interview for a psychology degree. "Oh, that doesn't matter, come here, it's all right." And she just put your hand here, and one hand out the window, we'll sort it out. So I went to East London to do a psychology degree. And on the first day, I was, I had been living in a cocoon of Saj Yoga, living in the ashram with my brothers and sisters, doing Saj Yoga. Work was just something I did to earn money. And suddenly I was thrown into a university course with all these young people. Mother had got us to change our dress to try and get rid of the boots, so I'd given up my jeans, and I was Laura Ashley and, kind of thing. No makeup, no high heels, everything was very sort of played down. And I was in among all these bright young things, and I was so shy, and so, such a new experience for me. I sat in the first chair I possibly could at the front, and it turns out I'd sat in somebody's friend's seat that they'd been keeping for them. And this boy is called Mark, and I got to know him through this. And there was a girl that I got to know, and she liked him very much, so I tried to play whatever, and I said, "This boy likes you," and he said, "Well, I actually like you." I said, "Oh my God, but I'm a Saj Yogi. You see, I do this thing, and I'm here to save the world."
You told him that?
Yes. And the only thing I can do is get married. I can't have a boyfriend. So he said, "Well, that's not out of the question." So I phoned Sri Mashti up, and I said, "Mother, I've met this boy and he wants to marry me." And I was trying to say he felt vibrations. And she said, "What does his father do? What is his job? What's he studying? What are his prospects?" And I was so stunned, I thought it was more interesting that he felt vibrations, but no. I said, "All right, bring him along." And I took him to Caxton Hall, and Pat knew nothing about this because of my going to my university, and Mother was coming, seeing everybody through the seats in the hall, and when she got to him, I sidled up and said, "This is the one," sidled away again. And she got Gavin to check him, and then when she was leaving, we always all stood on the pavement of Caxton Hall for hours, saying goodbye to Mother and goodbye to each other. And Mother was getting into her car, and I leant forward and said, "Well," and she said, "May God bless you." It's fine. So I turned round to Pat and said, "Pat, this is Mark, I'm going to marry him." And he said, "Don't you ever do anything like that again. What do you think you're doing?" And about a year later, Mother asked Mark where he first felt vibrations, and he said from a photograph that a friend had brought back from the meetings I had started, because that was the first time I'd started a meeting. And she said, "Oh, you're born realised." So he had quite a tough time of it, because he had married a total fanatic, you know, whose Saj Yoga was first, foremost and forever. But Shimashti arranged our marriage, and similar to Douglas, we had a registry office marriage organised with our family, and that was on the 18th of July, and our Saj Yoga marriage was going to be the next day, and we had booked a honeymoon in the lakes, a week in a cottage in the lakes, and the Sahaj wedding kept being moved until it was the 24th, and we had to cancel, of July, so from the 18th to 24th, so we had to cancel this week in the lakes. And when we got married, the Saj Yogis, like Pat said, he sold that stereo to make some money. They gathered the money together and they bought us a ticket to go to Paris, and we stayed in Marie's flat that Mother had just been staying in that journey, he said, in this vibrated flat for our honeymoon for 10 days in Paris. But the wedding was at Hester's place in Hampstead. No, it was actually in Hampstead in the Temple of All Faiths, and then they had the reception at Hester's place. She did a wonderful thing for us, very, very beautiful. But at the wedding in Hampstead, Shimashti had brought the wedding jewellery for me. She'd given me the wedding sari, and she brought